I said, welcome into Around the Felt. We got the Super Bowl recap, baby. I was right. Fly, Eagles, fly. And boy, were those Eagles flying, and those Chiefs got shot out of the air, out of the opening gates. It's like a horse race where all the horses run out. And oh, look at that horse in the one stall. He can't even get out of the gates. And the Chiefs never got out of the gates. The Eagles dominated. What a win. Chiefs do not three-peat. But I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Colin, Patrick Tong. How are we doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Reagan J. Loescher. You know, it was a tough game watching someone that was rooting for the Chiefs, that had some bread in the Chiefs, that was rooting with their entire heart for the Eagles not to win, for Saquon not to get a ring. But you know what? From start to finish, it was a tough watch for me. But hey, you got to tip the cap to the Eagles, particularly Jalen Hurts. That was a phenomenal performance, and that defense as well for Philadelphia. And Jake Elliott, your boy, I think you set the record for the most points scored in the Super Bowl. Great job out of Jake Elliott. You called that.
No, that was actually, I was on it, but I was on it from Caleb. Mr. Around the Bases was throwing around the hypothetical of him winning the MVP. All I was saying was I thought if one of the kickers was going to do it, it would be because of him, because he's had, it's just a classic, like, oh, this guy's been struggling, so the storyline's there. And clearly he rose to the occasion. It would have been something if he made another kick or two, because he ended up making like 7 or 8 kicks throughout the game because they kept getting penalties. They're like, back him up 5 yards, bang, 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 bang.
And Butker didn't hit a single kick. Butker had a goose egg.
I saw something on BR betting today. Some guy threw like 20 grand on Butker to make one extra point. And it was only to profit like a grand. Yeah, it was only to profit a grand, and he didn't even get an opportunity.
That is unreal. I mean, we got a lot to talk about this game, but do you want to get in some news around the league beforehand?
We can. I just know there's going to be like so many different crazy gambling stories with that.
Oh, absolutely. But hey, Reagan, I know you're pretty excited right now. You were right on your Eagles, getting it done in the postseason, becoming Super Bowl champs. We got to talk about your actual team a little bit here. The Jets, according to Jay Glazer, informed Aaron Rodgers that he will not be back this upcoming season. It seems like for financial reasons, the new regime, they knew at some point they're going to have to eat some of that money, and they would prefer to start with a clean slate, get that out of the way this year is the indication that I saw. The big question is who's going to be the quarterback for the Jets. The other big question is Rodgers going to continue playing? I suspect he will, but what teams make sense?
New York Giants make sense for him.
They kind of do a little bit, but, there's a lot of Stafford smoke being blown around right now with the Giants as well. So
I don't necessarily know if there's a lot of teams that make sense, because I think if you're a team that's not going to be competing, he's just going to, disgruntle all your young players and try to take over. I mean, Exhibit A with the Jets, I mean, he didn't really let anybody do their job, and he was kind of just trying to take over completely as if it was his team. And I guess technically it was, but, it didn't work out. So I guess maybe the Steelers make sense. It sounds like they're done with Russell Wilson.
Oh, no. Russell Wilson just told, I believe it was Schefter. It was Schefter or Rappaport. I saw it, that he thinks he's going to be back with the Steelers. Him and the Steelers are talking about their future, but he suspects he'll be back. So it looks like it's leaning more so like Wilson will be back with Pittsburgh. But, I mean, if you're Pittsburgh, I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers, or would you rather have Russell Wilson?
I think Aaron Rodgers, to be honest. I still feel like, while the Jets were a huge failure this year, I feel like ultimately, the biggest thing to point out was not the offense. It was the defense and the struggles and, just the huge regression from last year. So I wouldn't point to Rodgers and be like, if we had a different quarterback, that's a different team. Maybe a couple more wins, but I still think, there's not many quarterbacks you could put in that spot that they're a playoff team. Because defense is terrible.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think team. I mean, there's not a ton of spots for him. And then from the Jets perspective, I'm glad we're ripping the Band-Aid off. I mean, ultimately, you run it back one more year. Well, what does that do? If it fails again, then everyone's pointing to the new regime coming in and blaming them, and it's not helping them out. Where, now it's like you're pairing a new coach, a new GM, and a new quarterback together. And the last time we did that was with, when it was with the Bowls era with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And, we did go 10-6 that year. We did not make the playoffs. Under the new format, we would have made it. So little asterisks there. But obviously that was the last time the Jets were, I guess, semi-relevant. So I don't know if it makes sense to bring in a veteran. I would suspect we draft someone day 2. It sounds like everything with Jordan Travis has not been going well medically, so I don't even know if he'll be ready to start the season next year. I know you floated around the Tyrod theory, so I do think they'll keep him in the building.
They have to,
and I would imagine he'll be,
him.
the bridge quarterback to whoever they end up drafting. And especially if it's a day 2 guy, then maybe, it's like, let's not throw him into the fire right away, especially because his teams are not going to compete right away. But I'm hoping we get our Jaden Daniels ultimately.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get that this year, but it will be interesting to see what happens with the Jets and for Rodgers. Like, what team makes sense? Like maybe the Vikings make sense if Darnold gets a big deal somewhere. Jones is gone, he signed somewhere else, and it's like, okay, you got McCarthy, but maybe Rodgers floats his way in there. Maybe I always see San Francisco, but the Niners.
I like Purdy.
They indicated they want Purdy long term. I don't think that necessarily makes sense. It's really hard to find a spot where Rodgers fits right now. Honestly, like Pittsburgh is probably the one that makes the most sense, but what really is their ceiling, Pittsburgh with Rodgers or Russell Wilson? I don't think there's much of a difference there with the way the roster's constructed and how they've performed the past 10 or so years.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a fair point as well. I don't know what their full ceiling is, so I don't know. I still feel like Rodgers. I feel like Rodgers is still a step above Russell Wilson at this point, though.
I do too, but I don't think they're gonna beat Buffalo or Kansas City or Baltimore next year if they swap out Wilson with Rodgers, right? I don't know. I mean, we got a long offseason to talk about it, but in other news, Deebo Samuel requesting a trade. Interesting. You kind of thought that Deebo was going to get moved at some point anyways, just with the Purdy extension coming up, and they just paid Ayuk $30 million a year. Like, the writing, I think, was kind of on the wall here, and he wants a fresh start. It's going to be tough for the Niners to replicate his production because he has had that Swiss Army knife type of role in their offense. But, Shanahan will figure it out. What destinations make sense for you for Deebo Samuel? Similar ones that we talked about with like T. Higgins, and Cooper Kupp that potentially get traded.
I don't know, though, because, I feel like Deebo brings so much. He's kind of a diva in a sense to me. He doesn't, like, from what we've seen recently, it just, I don't know if that's the guy I want to bring in necessarily if I'm trying to build a culture. Obviously, he's still talented, but with McCaffrey being out this year, like, he honestly regressed. Like, he didn't have a good season, and they were without McCaffrey, so you would have thought he would have had been more involved as a runner, and they were out without Ayuk, so you would have thought he would have gotten more targets, and he actually got worse without those guys. So what does that really say about him? He had the opportunity for more touches and targets, and he didn't capitalize on it. So I don't know what he has left in the tank. I mean, I look at those other two guys in T. Higgins and Cooper Kupp. I think they have a lot more left, so those are more attractive options, especially T. Higgins with the age. I'm actually not sure what Deebo's age is. I know he's obviously not as
29.
old as Cooper Kupp.
29.
But, okay, so he is on the older-ish side, I guess. But he's definitely worth a chance. I look at some teams like I wouldn't like him. I look at some teams that like can compete now, because if you're a young team, I don't know if you want to bring him in there. Like the Patriots that aren't there yet but have the money, I don't know if that's exactly who you want to bring around Drake May. Where maybe Washington, but I still don't love it. I don't know if that's the piece they're missing. He's super dynamic, but I don't know if you want to bring that in there, because it kind of reminds me similar to like the Texans, where it's like you bring in Stephon Diggs, a little bit older in his career.
But hey, the Commanders just had success bringing in Bobby Wagner, Austin Eckler, like some aging guys that were.
That's true. Maybe they
obviously had a lot to offer, and they have a ton of money
Ertz,
where they could absorb the contract. Yeah, and Zach Ertz as well. But like you mentioned, Deebo's coming off you could argue, the worst year of his career. He played 15 games. He only had 670 receiving yards in 15 games. And in many games got outshined by Jawan Jennings. He also averaged 3.24 yards per carry, only had 136 rushing yards, which was the lowest of his career, and 1 rushing touchdown. He had 4 total touchdowns. Like, to put that in perspective, he had 5, 3, 8, and 3 just rushing touchdowns in 4 of his 6 seasons. You know what I mean? It's like, it was a bad year, and there is still a lot of money on the books there. So I think the Commanders probably make the most sense, just given what they have cap-wise. I also don't think Deebo would be interested in going to New England.
Yeah, probably not. You would think he wants to go to a contender, right?
Yes.
So I also think this could just be a smoke, and it's just, like he had a bad year. The 49ers had a bad year. And, then he looks on the other side, and the team that he's kind of had the most beef with and hostility towards is Philadelphia and their fans, and they're in the Super Bowl. So I think some of it could also have to do with that, to be honest.
All right, so Deebo's under contract for one more season and includes a $15 million option bonus. It was being reported that the Bills and Chargers are among teams in play. Bills would make sense. They obviously need a premier weapon. I don't know if Deebo's a true alpha number one. I would consider a top 10 or
I don't
top
even
15,
love that, though, because, the Bills kind of had, and I know Deebo's obviously better than Curtis Samuel, but, like, that's the kind of player Deebo is, just better. And, the Bills never really unlocked him and used him the way, that Washington and Carolina had used Curtis Samuel, because he was supposed to be that kind of, like, hybrid that you can use in the backfield and as a receiver all over the field. And I know, it's disrespectful to Deebo. Like, he's obviously worlds better than Curtis Samuel, but I don't know if I love the fit, but at the end of the day, Buffalo needs to get Josh Allen more elite weapons. But I'd hate to see him go there, and then it's like Amari Cooper 2.0, where it just, you bring in the aging veteran wide receiver, and it's kind of like, we're not even going to really use him.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk there. Definitely a risk. And his production has certainly declined since his career year in 2021.
Who was the other team you said?
Lost the Chargers. Chargers clearly need weapons. So
I don't mind the Chargers. I also think the Broncos too. I could see. I mean, it's still like, you don't want to hurt Bo Nix's development, but Sean Payton out there, at least it's a veteran coach that can kind of deal with that personality.
That's a good one.
And they're more like, I know I said no to the Patriots and I was a little iffy on the Commanders, but the Patriots aren't competing now. But I guess all three of those teams, like, you got the young quarterbacks and at least you have veteran coaches that could probably deal with that. But I don't know.
That's a good point. All right, let's move on. The Titans say they are open to moving the number one pick. We did hear they're not going to pass on a generational prospect. We had that debate. We don't think that's one of the quarterbacks here. It seems like the Titans are really open to all options. They are not sold on a quarterback, even though they need one. But with,
I don't know if
coach in here, they need one, dude. You're the only person I know that's going to die in this Will Levis hill, dude. I don't know what you've seen from him.
I kind of hope. I actually, I wouldn't hate it if my Jets traded for Will Levis, to be honest, and let him rock. I still believe in the talent. I know the production hasn't been there, but the size and the physical traits, like, he might just need a fresh start. I don't know if it's in Tennessee. I still believe in the talent in Will Levis. Yeah, I mean, that is interesting because obviously it was a team that spent their money and, came into the season last year trying to commit. Like, you don't go out and pay Tony Pollard if you're a tanking team that's going to be drafting number one overall. Like, you don't pay a running back if you are going to be or expect to be picking that early. So that was a failure of a season, but they have a lot of names. You don't go out and trade for L'Jarius Sneed if you're going to be tanking. So, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, maybe they do go and trade back and then take Abdul Carter, or they take Travis Hunter or Tet McMillan. And then, you go out and get Aaron Rodgers and you're like, hey, now we got a veteran quarterback in there. We know the defense is really good. Obviously, it might not seem like they were as good as they were because they're picking number one overall, but that offense was atrocious. A lot of bad turnovers, a lot of ineptness all over there. So maybe it's like, hey, we go get one of these young wide receivers. We pair him with Calvin Ridley. We bring in the veteran quarterback. We got Brian Callahan there. We got Bill Callahan there. Let's build up this offense, really get it going. And we're like, hey, this defense that we know is good can be the backbone. And it's kind of similarly constructed to the Jets and the Steelers, where it's a good defense. They got some weapons. They're just missing that quarterback to put him over the top. And then, hey, if there's any division right now that might be wide open, or you could say is wide open, it's the AFC South. The only other one I'll make a case for is the NFC South, but both of those divisions are wide open. So, if you're telling me next year Tennessee goes out, figures a quarterback, brings in a veteran, and they're, flirting around or, really battle on an outcome week 16, week 17 for the one seed, or I mean, not the one seed, the division title.
Whoa, let's settle it down. I was totally bought into what you were saying until you threw me off there.
The division title, I wouldn't be shocked at all. So I think this team is probably built better than most teams in their spot. But then again, look at Chicago last year. We were coming in like, this is one of the best spots any rookie quarterback's ever come into. And
that defense,
it was a dud of a season. So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, Now that you mention it, Aaron Rodgers going to Tennessee, taking Abdul Carter, because their secondary was one of the best in the league this year. Like, they had one of the top passing defenses. They do need to get some more juice on the edge. They do need to get better against the run. But hey, Abdul Carter and Jeffrey Simmons on that defensive line, that sounds pretty damn good. You bring in Aaron Rodgers, you do still have some other premium draft capital. Yeah, I mean, I could see if you're not sold on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, it's tough, man, because like so many teams force a pick and just set their franchise back a couple years. But then there's also the other argument where it's like just keep throwing as many darts as you can at the board until you finally find that quarterback. But it's tough when you're in this position and you're passing on an Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, I think Carter makes more sense for the Titans, though.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I mean, it's just adding to that defense, and they've obviously tried to invest in the offensive line,
they're
recently,
trying.
So,
but you got to trust Bill Callahan to get those young guys up, because you do have Skoronski, who I like, and you got J.C. Latham, who had a solid rookie year.
That's what I mean. So
the problem is there's just not much else outside of those two young guys.
Yeah, but they've still gone offensive line the past 2 years, and depending on where they trade back, I don't know if they're in a spot where you go lineman again. So that would be kind of what
you'd have to move back. Like I think the Patriots really need an offensive lineman at 4. But I think 4 is too rich to take one of these guys if you have Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter on the board, assuming 2 quarterbacks go, right? Or even Graham, Like, there's just guys that are just studs on the defensive side of the ball that you don't want to reach for need too much, where the Titans could get themselves in trouble there. But, I honestly, bold prediction, not really that bold. I could see the Titans trading it to the Giants, because the Giants are clearly Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are going to be very desperate. Like, they know they're on the hot seat. They know they need a quarterback. And this is the argument people were making on why they should have fired Joe Shane. It's like now he's just making a desperate move for a quarterback that could fuck up the entire organization for years to come. So if the Titans drop back to 3 and get an Abdul Carter or get a Travis Hunter and pick up an extra day 2 pick, I think that's a home run for them.
Yeah, no, and like you said, GMs do get desperate. So I, as a Giants fan, you should hope they do not get desperate and do that stuff.
I don't want them to. I really don't. But I think there's a decent chance that happens.
Well, they're in a weird spot too, because like you said, they're not gonna. I fully believe if it's the same thing as last year and they're picking in the top 5 again, they're totally out of a job. I think they should have been out 100%. Of a job this year. I think the Giants are doing all the wrong things right now, because I think no matter what they end up doing, they're going to be bad next year and they're going to fire both of them. So I guess unless they're fully not sold on drafting a quarterback this year and they want to give like a 1-year, Baker Mayfield type deal to some veteran, and it's like, let's see what he can do. If he proves it, maybe that's our long-term option. You're just setting up the franchise for failure, especially if you do draft the quarterback, because you're just going to be giving them a new GM and new coach in year 2.
Yeah, it's not good. But, speaking of the Giants, this is the last piece of news that I got, Reagan, unless you want to add anything else. But Eli Manning misses out on the Hall of Fame in his first year. Your thoughts, Reagan?
It sounds like the Giants just keep getting fucked in every which way. I mean,
this was the
Saquon winning this
season of my entire life.
Bowl. Daniel Jones is gone. The big contract. Oh, guess what? Mr. Eli Manning doesn't even make it in. And I think I was telling, I know we've had some debates about this, and I remember you and your brother just getting so heated about it. Like, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just a hater. Eli will be undoubtedly a first ballot Hall of Famer. And
I don't even recall that conversation. You could just totally be making that up.
Oh, no. Oh, I'm making that up. You definitely didn't think Eli was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I don't think I don't recall arguing first ballot. I certainly have gotten in many arguments saying he is a Hall of Famer, and I believe that's the consensus right now.
I remember we were in LBI and we were talking about it, and I said, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not going to put, I said Luke Kuechly. I thought he would have made it.
He did not make it, but he was in the top 7, so he's automatically a finalist next year.
I mean, Sterling Sharp, obviously, Grady finally got in. Who else was there? Who am I blanking out on? That made the Hall of Fame.
I mean, I could pull it up. I don't know.
I thought you. Okay, no, my bad. I had it up. So obviously, with that being said, I don't know. I mean, I thought Marshall Yonda would have got into. I liked him with Baltimore. I mean,
there are definitely some snubs. Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Antonio Gates.
Right. I said because those two
they all belong in the Hall of Fame.
I knew Jared Allen and Antonio Gates were going to get in for sure. I know this was like one of the first times it's only been 4, so that was a little surprising to some people.
They wanted to be more strict and like. Because that's a lot of people like bash like the Basketball Hall of Fame. Like, oh, it's so easy to get into the Basketball Hall of Fame. I think the NFL is trying to get more like the baseball, where it's a very exclusive club. So that's why they kind
of
were more strict this year. Yeah, I prefer it to be that way, honestly.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, we'll see if Eli gets in. I mean, very mediocre, but at the end of the day, the Super Bowl MVPs, 2 of them are there. Beating 2 of the biggest dynasties. So you can't take it away from him. So, he just did what he needed to do. And then come playoff time, he stepped up, got him the Super Bowls. And it's funny because a lot of Giants fans really hate on Jalen Hurts. And it's funny to me because you see them all crying about this. And it's like, Jalen Hurts doesn't do this, doesn't do that. But guess what? Very similar to Eli Manning, where, he took down the big, scary dynasty, put the team on his back in the Super Bowl and put up a big performance and gets the MVP. So that was very, very funny.
Let's not act like any of those Giants teams were comparable to this Eagles team.
No, they're not. But my whole thing is
Hurts played phenomenal. His
phenomenal.
Postseason stats, you can't deny it. His postseason stats are throughout his entire career are very damn good.
And that's what I'm saying. All I'm saying is he stepped up when it mattered and he got the Super Bowl MVP, put the team on his back where people were saying, they questioned him. But at the end of the day, you can't take it away from him. When he's all said and done, he's going to have a Super Bowl MVP on his resume. So I just find it funny that, there's a lot of Giants fans that were nitpicking him all playoff run. I'm not saying you, but just ones I was friends with. And it's like, well, you're crying about Eli with his Super Bowl MVPs, but now you got to give this guy his respect and flowers going forward.
No, yeah, absolutely. And my point on the Eli.
Hurts, oh, wait, no, you go.
You want to talk about Jalen Hurts? We're going to talk about the entire Super Bowl.
Fine.
We still got time. Just to close out the point on the news and on Eli, obviously very bummed out. He didn't get in first ballot. He wasn't even top 10, right? So clearly the people in the room are like, oh, he has a regular season record that's 500, right? Like that's a problem. Some turnover, like a lot of interceptions, like whatever, right? So they're holding that against him. I guess, was he ever considered a top 3 to 5 player at his position? Like, no. Like you could maybe argue like 2011. I think you could argue he's like potentially top 5.
Coming into 2008 and the 2012 season, probably yes.
Yeah.
Because think about it, like the overreactions go crazy. Like, right now people are probably going to be putting Jalen Hurts as high as 2.
Jalen Hurts, the second best quarterback, and I love Jalen Hurts was great, but he's not.
But that's my point, bro. That's my point. So yeah, there probably were times where people were saying Eli was like a top 3 quarterback, especially after the Super Bowls. Like going into those seasons, 28 and 2012, everyone was probably like, oh, watch out. Eli's going to be a beast for fantasy. Like the Giants are going to be back next year. Like watch out for this team.
And look at his postseason runs, because his postseason runs were ridiculous. Like in terms of yardage and touchdowns, interception ratio, like they were. And in 2011, he threw for over 6,000 total yards, including the regular season and postseason, which is an NFL record. He has 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Every player that has 2 Super Bowl MVPs is a Hall of Famer. It sucks he didn't get in first ballot. He wasn't even top 10, so it might be a couple years. But ultimately, Eli Manning will get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, that wraps up our news. Let's get Drock in here, baby.
Let's go. What's up, boys?
What's going on, brother?
What a horrible fucking Super Bowl to watch. My God. Not even as a Giants fan, it just sucked, period. Because the only thing exciting about that game was the coin toss. It's the only thing I had.
Yeah, we had tails.
That's all you. What? That's all you did?
Dude, I went down a lot. I don't want to disclose the numbers on here because my mom's probably watching, but I will have to say the only fun part about that Super Bowl and the halftime show also sucked.
Yeah, me and Dave cheered one time. It was tails.
It was about it.
You did put out some crazy. I'm looking at your sheet right now. You did put out some crazy picks, but also one of your picks you put out was like Travis Kelce to have exactly 87 receiving yards. I also scared money don't make money.
I also took Devontae Smith to score, I believe, on those picks, and I didn't take him in real life. So yeah, that goes to show how cool that Super Bowl was for me.
Yeah, imagine the only pick that I put out that I didn't take was Barkley under, because I was just like still like I don't want to take an under, and it did smack. So I should have taken it, but my sheet did pretty well. I hit on Worthy anytime at plus 150. I hit on Devontae Smith. My 3-leg parlay, the one of them hit at plus 500. Smith, Worthy, Kelce. Barkley under smacked. Reagan, I know you cooked.
Yeah, no, I think the craziest one I hit was Jordan Davis at plus 920 over half a sack.
Oh, I didn't
Damn.
even realize Jordan Davis got home because I saw that in
Damn.
your sheet. I was like,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
plus
Jordan Davis ain't
920.
known for
Yeah,
it.
and
That's
then
nice.
what was it? Yeah, I think that was like the craziest one. I mean, Brown obviously hit anytime Hurts hit his normal passing yard line, and that's the funny thing. Like, I feel like I was pretty spot on with the Hurts take. It was just Kansas City never got anything going, so he just
Nothing.
didn't need to. Because I fully think he would have hit for over 300 passing yards, because that was the only one that didn't hit on the plus 3,100.
Oh,
Well, yeah,
that-
because Kansas City was just selling out to stop Barkley. It was very obvious, and they dared Hurts to beat him with his arm, and he did. But the problem was Mahomes probably played the worst game of his entire career, where the Chiefs got blown out, and we've never fucking seen that before, where it's like the Eagles actually did not have to throw the ball in the fourth quarter. Like, they took their foot off the gas, and Hurts was dealing to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith.
I will say too, good call by Pop-Tart on D-Hop. That was a good call.
That
Yeah,
was
anytime.
not Noah
Plus
Gray though,
500.
so that just screwed me.
Noah Gray fucked us. It looked so great. All the explanation was so spot on. But I even saw like Dan Orlovsky on Twitter is like, where was the 12 personnel? And I'm like, Pop-Tart's asking the same question. Where was the 12 personnel?
Well, I was cracking up. The one catch he got absolutely fucking popped after
Yeah,
the
we
one
were like, chip,
catch.
chip, 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 chip. We didn't know the first quarter.
I
Like, that was
I
it.
did see though. I know at one point, like Mahomes, it was like 4th and 5, and Noah Gray was wide open, and for some reason he threw it to the outside to a covered receiver, and it got like batted away. But I was like, damn, that was the yards right there. But
Mm.
Mahomes
Oh, that
missed
would've
them.
been nice.
I also had so many numbers on around special teams or defensive scoring, and clearly the Eagles did. And
Oh, you got it.
didn't
No, you
take
said
it
that
either.
on the pod though.
I know,
You
but I
said it
didn't
on the
take it.
pod, but you put
I
on your
didn't
sheet
take
the
it.
Chiefs, not the Eagles.
Yep.
It's funny. I didn't even.
All
put
right,
the
let's
Eagles
move
button
on to
up
these
in the wheel.
questions.
Yeah, let's hit some questions.
All right, first one. I'm gonna repeat his email first. Dave is silly at comcast.net. Our main man Austin, thank you for asking questions, Austin. He yelled at me this weekend for not answering or not saying any of those questions. So, first question he's got: who is better, Tom Brady or Pat Mahomes?
Tom Brady. Next question.
Okay. Yep.
It's still. I would say it's still Tom Brady. I mean, I would say for now you can close the debate, and it will get reopened back up when Mahomes gets a 4th Super Bowl.
All right, wait.
for
Let
now,
me
close
ask
the
a
book.
better question. If Patrick Mahomes wins the Super, let's say they won the Super Bowl this year, who could arguably be better for their entire career, Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes?
Well, all right. So, I mean, this was the big thing on First Take this morning. Like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp just barking back at each other, like, "Oh, it's over. Brady's the GOAT. Brady's the GOAT. There'll never be another GOAT." I'm like, okay, let's slow down. Yeah, this is a chink in Mahomes' armor. Absolutely. He's still 28, 29.
28.
He's got 3 rings. He's been to 5. I mean, it's not closed. It's just put on hold for now. The biggest argument I saw for actually closing the case is people were like, how are you just going to assume that Mahomes is going to play as long as Brady did and be as effective as long as Brady was? Because we've never seen it before in NFL history. And someone was like, Mahomes' worst 2 statistical seasons were the past 2 years. So why do you think that 10 years from now, when he's 38, he's still going to be competing for Super Bowls like Brady was, when Brady's the only one that could play past 40, right? And I'm like, that's a valid argument. I could see it. I don't think Mahomes will win 7, but you can't sit here and say at this point of his career, the GOAT conversation's over, because he has had the best start to a career in NFL history.
Yeah, and I hate to I hate to bring it up because I hate the term in basketball where people are like, the LeBron Jordan debate. Well, look at the talent now versus the talent back then. But I would say not even like the NFL talent, but I feel like there's a lot better quarterbacks in the league right now versus when Brady was there. So I feel like it's just going to be harder because it's such a bigger gauntlet now. Also, the quarterbacks are protected so much more, so there's so many ways to like maneuver around it, put up better stats, and so I think ultimately Mahomes may finish with better stats. Will he get as much Super Bowls? No, but he's going to have such a higher opportunity to have better stats when it's all said and done.
Well, it's just funny because that's great, because it's going to be a conversation like LeBron MJ. Like LeBron has better stats, like counting stats, but he has less rings. And it was just funny that Shannon Sharp was the one arguing that because Shannon Sharp is the biggest, like LeBron's a GOAT homer.
Yeah.
And like now you're Patrick can't play both sides of the coin. I think they're very similar arguments.
Yeah. You were like bugging out on my screen there. I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi in Hoboken tonight blows, but I still heard most of what he had to say. So, all right, let's dive into the second question. Is Hurts now a top 5 quarterback in the NFL?
He was prior to me. But yeah, I mean, right now, maybe I'm overreacting a little bit, but I'm putting him at 2. I don't care. I'll put him at 2. Name someone else. They got a Super Bowl? Nah. Did they get past that big bad man? Maybe Joe Burrow did, but then he didn't get past Matty Stafford. So I don't know. He stepped up on the biggest stage, and dominated, did exactly what he needed to do. And obviously, yeah, the defense cooked for the Eagles. But guess what? Jalen Hurts rose to the occasion on the biggest stage and got it done. And guess what? A lot of quarterbacks have tried, but they haven't been able to rise it because you're probably going to say Lamar Jackson. What did Lamar Jackson do? He hasn't stepped up once against the Chiefs and been able to will his team over. Has Josh Allen stepped up? Yes.
I forgot. Was Jalen Hurts the only player on the fucking field? Like, that's such a dumb argument. You're going to sit here and tell me if you swap Jalen Hurts with Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen,
if you're talking about dumb arguments, that's a dumb argument.
With the Eagles roster, they couldn't win a Super Bowl. Like, come on, dude. Like, you're just saying because of that one game, all of a sudden Jalen Hurts you think is a better player than Lamar Jackson. You think Jalen Hurts legitimately is a better player than Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen?
That's a dumb argument.
Crazy.
That's a dumb argument because there's no world where you can ever switch it. I hate the ifs. If you switch them, well, that's not a world we'll ever live in. We're not switching them. These are the facts. Jalen Hurts has a Super Bowl. Guess what?
Game.
Now let me ask you this.
Jalen Hurts is a better player than Lamar Jackson. Really?
You might not.
Really?
I mean, he did get it done.
You think Jalen Hurts is a better player than Lamar Jackson?
I don't
know.
This
is a ridiculous argument.
One rises to the occasion come playoff time. The other one crumbles. So, yeah, that's great. He puts up great regular season numbers. And what happens in the playoffs? He crumbles. And what did Jalen Hurts do? What did you say before? Yeah, he may have not put up the best regular season numbers, but in the playoffs, he stepped up and got it done.
Who's a better player, Eli Manning or Aaron Rodgers? Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers has 1. Who's a better player? It's the same fucking argument, but it doesn't fit your narrative.
Well, they both do have Super Bowls, so it's not the same argument.
What do you mean? Eli has 1 more Super Bowl than Aaron Rodgers.
But they both have Super Bowls. So
now you're just finding a fucking loophole because
it's not a loophole. You're trying to make arguments here.
All right, who's the better quarterback, Nick Foles or Josh Allen?
I would say Josh Allen because Nick Foles,
But Nick Foles got it done, right? He beat the Patriots. He beat the dynasty. He got it done.
Well, that's pretty.
Right?
I would say that's pretty
better.
I would say that's pretty disrespectful to Jalen Hurts. I think you're disrespecting him right now. You're not giving him any credit.
Dude, I did give Jalen Hurts credit the entire podcast. I said what he did this postseason.
So where would you rank him?
His stats were great. I would rank him 5. I would rank him 5. He jumped Herbert.
I think you're putting too much stock in the regular season. I think you're putting too much stock into the regular season.
I'm looking at the players as who they are, as what I've seen their entire careers.
So Jalen Hurts gets another Super Bowl next year. The Eagles go back to back.
What does Jalen Hurts do better than Lamar Jackson?
Win Super Bowls?
Is a clutch gene better than Lamar Jackson?
Yep.
That's what I'd give him. That's it.
I mean, as a passer, he's not great.
He's not a better passer.
But Jalen Hurts has becoming a better passer before our eyes. It's fine. It's fine. He'll ball out next year. I'll have a nice little MVP future on him, and he'll get his regular season MVP to go along with his Super Bowl MVP.
You actually think Jalen Hurts is a better player than Josh Allen?
Yeah, right now I'd rank him.
You're gonna die. You're gonna die in that hell. You're gonna die in that hell. Really? That's just,
right now. I will.
That's the dumbest argument you've ever made in your entire fucking life. That is so bad. Behind the best offensive line in football, with the best running back in football next to him, with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Really? That guy's better than with Josh Allen? When Josh Allen had a better season with so much worse around him? Yeah, Jalen Hurts and that Eagles team.
I'm not going to
Patrick Mahomes. And you know what? How about that defense for Philadelphia, man? How about that defense?
Hey.
How about if Josh Allen had that defense in any of the times that he got to face Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs? No, because he just has to outduel Patrick Mahomes and he comes up short like this every time. But if you look at the
let me get this straight.
of those games between Allen and Mahomes, they are neck and neck. It's not Allen's fault that they're losing those games.
So let me get this.
But give Josh Allen that fucking defense, and we'll see if he can win a fucking Super Bowl. Right?
Well, guess what? That'll never happen because it's once again hypothetical. But let me get this straight. So you're gonna knock Jalen Hurts for doing what he's supposed to do. I always hate that because
I'm not knocking Jalen
because
Hurts.
you are because you're taking it away from him.
You're just
because
doing recency bias.
Because he has these weapons around him. No, I've always been a big Jalen Hurts guy, and I've always stood behind it, and that was a big reason why I had them in the Super Bowl this year.
It's
a big reason when he had that breakout year and should have won MVP if he didn't get injured for the regular season. I was the first guy calling that out. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and knock him and be like, well, because he has a good offensive line and because he has a good defense, because give the guy some credit. I'm giving him his credit. Yeah, maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. Guess what? Last game I watched, Jalen Hurts balled out, won a Super Bowl. So yeah, I'm going to give him his flowers. I'm going to back my guy. And maybe I'm being a little biased here, but I don't care. I get that. I get the right to do that. I'm a happy guy. And he made me look like a smart man this playoff run. Because guess what?
Well,
I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl.
Your argument right there just made you look like a dumb man. And I don't think anyone in the league would agree with what you just said, but it's fine. I'm done with this conversation. We can move on to the next question.
Hey, we'll see. We'll see, man. I can't wait till next season already. Because guess what? He'll just get to prove me more right. And then when we're having this debate next year, you're like, damn, why didn't I listen to Reagan when he said that, when he's going back-to-back and winning his second Super Bowl? Damn, why didn't I listen to Reagan?
Oh, perfect time to segue. Are the Eagles going back-to-back?
Yes, they are. I'm taking them to go back-to-back next year. I already decided it. My Jets suck, so it doesn't matter. So I'll take my second favorite team to win the Super Bowl next year. I mean, clearly they have a top 2 quarterback in the league. They have they have debatable the best running back in the league. The defense is sick. The GM just does magic when magic is needed. Like, you already know. That's the best thing about the Eagles. Like, they obviously hit on DeJean and Quinion Mitchell, and Zach Bond they turned him into a freaking all-pro. But he's about to get another stud or two in the draft this year. You just know how good Howie is. So they're going to be even better next year. That's the best part about it. And the NFC's got a couple good teams, but to me right now, the NFC's wide open. They go right back. The path is so clear.
Yeah, I mean, Howie Roseman's already in the Hall of Fame, I think. He's the mastermind. It's not even just hitting on so many draft picks. It's pouncing on star players when they become available, when other teams have these financial constraints, but the Eagles don't. Howie Roseman is a mastermind at doing it. And their core pieces are all under contract for the next year. And then you kind of then Jordan Davis is a free agent. Like, you do have some guys that become free agents, but really, like, for the next 2 seasons, they got their dudes, right? They certainly can go back-to-back. I would not be shocked if they're the favorite. You got to think.
Dave, can you check that real quick while he's ranting?
It's definitely either Kansas City or Philadelphia as the favorite. Detroit is going to be back. You got to think San Francisco will be better, but the Commanders, the Commanders won 12 games, but if you look on paper, those two teams, it's hard to think the Commanders talent-wise are right there, even though they did steal a game, the NFC is the Eagles right now and Detroit. I would not be shocked if they go back-to-back. Not at all.
The Eagles are the favorite to get the repeat at plus 650, and then the Ravens plus 700, and then Chiefs and Bills at plus 750.
I'm such a chalky fuck. That's not in my DNA. All right, they're not going back-to-back. I ain't a chalkboard out here. No. I mean, I genuinely think they can, though. I'll probably be rocking with them. We'll see. I mean, there's so much to happen in the draft in the offseason.
Yeah, it's hard to predict that now. The season just ended.
Yeah.
But obviously, they definitely have a really good chance.
All right, last question tonight. I'm going to rephrase this for Austin. I'm going to help him out here. His questions are the Chiefs making it back to the Super Bowl, but I'm going to give you guys a better question. When do you think the Chiefs can head back to the Super Bowl, and in how many years?
That's going to piss him off.
I know.
He's going to be texting me. Tell Dave I'm never asking questions again if he rephrases my question again. Great question, Dave. Thanks for rephrasing that. I can't wait for next pod to have no questions now. Yeah, I mean, I would think next year. I mean, to me, they're still the best team in the AFC. I actually find it funny that Baltimore would have better odds than them, because until, Lamar and the Ravens or Josh Allen and the Bills prove to us that they can get past Kansas City when it comes to the playoffs, there's no reason to give them the respect. And I know a lot of that obviously has to deal with where the money's coming in, and they do have the better roster on paper. But as long as Patrick Mahomes is there, I don't care. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if they're back there next year. I don't think anyone would be. So I would say I would fully expect next year, going off of history.
Yeah, they're certainly the favorite to give. Like I don't think Baltimore's the favorite in my mind over Kansas City to get back, just what we've seen. I mean, even this year, the past 2 years, like in the regular season, they didn't look like a juggernaut team, but they just win, right? And they get that 1 seed, and you just can't beat them at Arrowhead in the postseason. The reason I think Baltimore might be ahead of them is Kansas City has a lot of key free agents that I don't know. They're not going to be able to pay everybody, right? They got $11 million in cap space right now. All-pro guard Trey Smith is a free agent. Nick Bolton, Justin Reed, Hollywood Brown, D-Hop, whatever. D-Hop's gone. Charles Omenihu on the D-line. You got some key pieces there, man. On that defense in particular, where it's like, are you going to be able to pay everybody, right? And you got to think, when you look at their roster, their run game just abandoned them this season. They need to address the running back position. I mean, Pacheco just doesn't look like he has that step anymore. I don't know what's going on with him. You're going to need more weapons. Like, yeah, Rice is coming back, but a brutal injury. You don't know if he's going to be ready. Worthy looks great. Kelsey might retire. The reason you lost this game is because you couldn't protect Patrick Mahomes, and that Philadelphia didn't even have to blitz, and they got after you all game, right? So offensive tackle was an issue all year, and you had to bump out Joe Thuney to left tackle, who he was great, but not in the Super Bowl. He wasn't great. It's not his position. You need help at offensive tackle. You're going to lose some more guys on defense. Like, it's going to get more difficult. And when you lose a guy like Kelsey, who's a legend and one of those leaders in that locker room, it's going to make it difficult as well. I'd still would take the Chiefs to make it back, but it's going to get more difficult.
Yeah, that's an interesting point too. I mean, we still don't know if Kelsey's going to retire. I mean, the poor Mr. Pfizer had his big moment ruined. He could have been proposing and retiring, but guess what? Jalen Hurts had other plans, baby. Woo! But yeah, no, I mean, that is a good point. We still don't know. But let's take a deep dive into the game, because I would love to get into some more of the nitty gritties.
Yeah, let's get the nitty gritties of this game. So we'll start with the Chiefs here. Mahomes threw for 257, 3 touchdowns. It was more so in garbage time the second half, just trying to make a comeback effort when they were getting their asses just completely kicked. The 2 picks, bad, very bad. One of them, Thuney got pushed into him, and it was a little shitty throw to Zach Bond. Nice catch by Zach Bond, that diving interception inside the 25. The other one, of course, the DeJean pick 6. If you haven't seen it on our socials, check it out. We got a pretty sick view.
Yeah, but don't ask who took the video. We don't.
Yeah,
we have our own.
We don't want to get anyone. We have inside sources, but yeah, we kind of
have some street cred.
I think we have the best view of the DeJean pick 6 that anyone has on our Instagram or our Twitter or our YouTube. So check it out. Mahomes was sacked 6 times, Reagan. Eagles did not blitz. This is the 6th time in Super Bowl history a team has not blitzed, and they're 6-0. So maybe that's a formula for success, huh? The Chiefs' leading rusher was Patrick Mahomes, 4 carries for 25 yards. Hunt had 3 for 9, Pacheco 3 for 7, P-Ride 1 for 8. The run game was abandoned. Now, it was not effective early on, but then they got down 24-0 in the second quarter, and it was just put the ball in Mahomes' hands, see if he can get you back here. Mahomes also lost a fumble, right? That was one thing that I pointed out, Reagan, is I thought the turnover battle was going to be so crucial in this game, and I thought Kansas City would win it. I was like, when have we seen Patrick Mahomes turn the ball over consistently in the Super Bowl? We haven't. Well, you know what? That was the first time we have, and huge reason Philadelphia won it, because it felt like the Chiefs couldn't breathe, right? Like they couldn't get a score and get a little bit of momentum and try to get a stop. It's just like Philadelphia kept coming, and they couldn't drive the ball down the field. Turnover, and Philadelphia would score right away and answer. So that really screwed him up there. I mean, receiving-wise, it was Xavier Worthy and a whole lot of nothing. At least I was on for Worthy, 8 for 157 and 2 touchdowns. Probably the quietest $152 tutty game in Super Bowl history, to be honest with you. Mr. Pfizer, 4 for 39. D-Hop caught a touchdown, shot out Pop-Tart. But, yeah, I mean, it was a tough game offensively for Kansas City. For the Eagles, I mean, Hurts 17 to 22, 221, 2 touchdowns and a pick. That pick was a little, not a great throw, but it's okay. He rebounded, and his deep balls have been really good throughout this playoff run. So, and he did get back with Devontae Smith later in the game on a deep ball. Hurts was a leading rusher, 11 for 72 and a touchdown. Barkley, 25 for 57. He also added 6 for 40 through the air. So 97 total yards, 31 total touches. Not the sexiest game for Barkley in terms of the stat sheet, but he was phenomenal in the blitz pickup. He did pass pro really well for Hurts, which, with that offensive line and Barkley's pass pro allowed him to kind of pick this defense apart as the game went on. Devontae Smith, leading receiver, 4 for 69 and a touchdown. I'm happy I hit on that one. My most confident pick. My only problem is I did the ladder, 50, 60, 70. It was 1 yard away from fully cashing Devontae Smith. So kind of bums me out there, bud. And then A.J. Brown, 3 for 43 and a touchdown. And we almost saw Jahan Dotson first touchdown yet again. Would have been crazy. 2 for 42, tackled the 1. You got to shout out to Eagles defense, man. Josh Sweat, 2.5 sacks. Milton Williams with 2 sacks. Jalix Hunt with a half a sack. Jordan Davis with a sack. Your boy, Reagan, cashing you plus 900. Of course, the DeJean pick 6. Ball and interception. What a phenomenal performance by the Eagles. Your thoughts on this game?
My thoughts are that, people need to start respecting the good people of Philadelphia.
Dude, no, come on.
Nah,
come on.
I mean, just a good win. I mean, dominating on all fronts. Happy to see, Vic Fangio finally get past Patrick Mahomes. I know that was, the big thing coming into it, that this guy had never beaten him. So that's cool to see, and, to dominate in the fashion he did without even, really needing it. And I guess that shows you, how good Philadelphia's D-line is, but also, I guess, how bad or how protected Kansas City's, offensive line has been. Because I guess really, like, Buffalo didn't test them enough. And then the Texans, the Texans were kind of having their way on the defensive line as well. Like, the Texans really could have beaten them in that game, and they out-yarded them or had more yards throughout the game. So it really shows you that, like, when you went against a complete team in Philadelphia, what they were able to do. From Kansas City, Mahomes really seemed like at the end he was the only one trying on the offense. I mean, obviously Worthy was too, but it just seemed like a lot of those guys were just moping around. I mean, Kelsey was a non-factor. I mean, they couldn't even run the ball. They didn't even really try to run the ball. They kind of gave up on the running game early, and that was that. And that really comes back to the fact that, this team really hasn't been able to run the ball all year. And I talked about it on the last podcast or 2 podcasts ago when we were doing the predictions. Like, if you look at all of Kansas City's Super Bowl wins, they at least had 1 or 2 running backs that were like gashing the defenses. I mean, we've seen the likes of Jerick McKinnon going back to Damian Williams against their win against the 49ers the first time around. So they had some different names. I mean, Darrell Williams, they've had some, different guys step up in big situations and have big games. Even Pacheco, like non-existent, where he was a big factor last year. So that really is one of the biggest keys to me, is the fact that they never got the run game going, and it really hurt them because you just kept making Mahomes drop back. Pressure got to him, or they were able to do enough that they made him uncomfortable, throw it away, or try to scramble for nothing.
Yeah, man, that's a great point, because they got down early. They weren't really moving the ball, but it got to the point where those pass rushers who were already having success, were already confident, they knew Mahomes was going to drop back, and they were really just pinning their ears back and just took over the game. And now we've seen Mahomes lose twice in the Super Bowl. What is the common denominator of both of those losses?
Sacks, and lots of them.
Yes. Getting pressured all day, running for his life, just uncomfortable. He was never like, I've never seen him like move around like that much in the pot, like happy feet. You know what I mean? Like, he was not set and like going through his progressions. He was like missing some reads. He was just frantic. Like, he was not comfortable the entire game. You got to tip your hat to that Eagles pass rush. And, dude, Bryce Huff was even a fucking healthy scratch, and he was one of their big offseason additions on that defensive line. That D-line is nasty. And I think Howie Roseman, the whole league sees the blueprint. Just take offensive and defensive linemen in the draft over and over and over. I don't give a fuck if you have 2 good edge rushers. Take another. Just do it, because you win in the trenches, and Philadelphia just proved that, and Kansas City has proven that the past couple years as well, because they've always had after that loss to Tampa Bay, what they do, they really invest in the offensive line. They have several All-Pros in the offensive line. Didn't work out this week. They had problems to tackle all year. So that was an issue. And their defensive line, like, invest in the trenches and you're going to be a good team, right? Kansas City clearly needs to address the offensive tackle spot this offseason. And to your point about the running game, I think this running back class, they're saying there could be 30 running backs taken. I think they got to take one with at least a little bit more juice, a style that's going to mesh well with Pacheco, because I think Hunt is probably gone.
Yeah. And not to go, off the Super Bowl, but it's kind of funny that the Jets and the Eagles essentially swapped Bryce Huff and Hassan Reddick, and both.
I was thinking about this on the couch yesterday. I was like, they both fucking sucked. they both didn't do anything.
They both were really good, and they're like, both teams got a good edge rusher, so it'll probably be the number one edge rusher for both teams, and both guys
like
just
15 to 18 million.
Yeah, both guys are getting paid to just suck. Like,
yeah,
some of the highest contract paid guys on their teams and just suck. But yeah, I mean, that does make you think Kansas City's going to go O-line with that first pick. I mean, the good thing is it seems like they'll have some options at tackle at that point. So, or maybe they'll trade up. I mean, we saw them trade up last year. They're definitely not afraid to move up, but that's got to be the biggest thing. And, hey, at least you're going to be getting Rashid Rice back. I mean, Worthy has obviously been a smash play. He's a guy, too, like, not to, talk too much about Dynasty, but he's a guy that, like, his playoff run has definitely kind of pushed him up in the Dynasty rankings, right? I mean, I don't want to overreact, but to me, I feel like he's almost in the same tier as Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, the way he's played in this playoff run. Like, knowing that you have Patrick Mahomes' potential number one wide receiver for the future.
The only thing to be concerned about is they kind of used him similar to how they used Rashee Rice. And how does it look when Rice is back, right? Like, do they kind of change Worthy's role? Because Rice was so great in that role as well. That's like really the only biggest risks there.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if you could worry about that. I mean, Rice is coming off the ACL tear and obviously has the legal troubles as well. So I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, he just really came on in the second half of the year in this playoff run. Obviously, he was
phenomenal.
Super effective. So I don't know if that's an overreaction to put him in that same conversation, in the Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors category. But, I would say he's probably top 5, right? Like, out of the wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean,
McConkey,
would you rather
Thomas, and Neighbors?
You have your option, right? You have your option right now. Yeah, you could argue McConkey for sure. You could argue Brian Thomas. You could argue Neighbors. I'd still take Marv long term over him. Would you rather have Rome Odunze or Xavier Worthy?
Well, and that's the biggest thing, bro. You're betting on the talent long term of you're betting on the talent of Odunze and Marvin Harrison, or are you going to bet on the guy that's kind of proven with the quarterback? So that's an interesting hypothetical going into the offseason. But overall, I'd say there's a lot of good rookie wide receivers from this class. One definitely going to go down as one of the best draft classes.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add on this game?
Yeah, I mean, outside of that, I mean, I just didn't expect it to be this big of an ass kicking. It kind of went exactly how I imagined, at least in the sense of, how Philadelphia's offense would go. I didn't expect them to, dominate in this fashion, but I did expect, Saquon to get bottled up and to come down on the Jalen Hurts shoulders and have to throw the ball a lot and make the plays. And obviously A.J. Brown made some plays. Devontae Smith made some plays. I thought Goddard would have been a little more involved, but I think, ultimately it came down to a lot of these guys didn't have bigger games than they could have because they really didn't need to. I mean, the game was over by halftime.
Yeah, and Hurts just killed Kansas City with his legs, man. Killed them. So many times where they started to get pressure and he just climbed the pocket and just go right up to shoot, and just pick up first downs. I was surprised. Like, Kansas City had a good game plan on containing Barkley. I was surprised Spags didn't have a better game plan on containing Jalen Hurts. That really killed him.
They probably didn't know with the knee, like, what his health was. And also, like, I feel like recently Hurts hasn't been destroying people with his legs where he's just been throwing it away versus, like, trying to make it. And he was just like, I'm just going to tuck it and run versus just running out of bounds. Like, he kept going. He was kind of pulling a trick out of Mahomes' books where, tiptoeing the sideline, it seemed like every time he got out there and to get those couple extra yards. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, it'll just be interesting, but I definitely did not expect that out of Kansas City at all. I think that was very shocking. And, there was obviously some brutal beats. I mean, the Gatorade color was lime, so I guess that tells you that, when you see the odds change significantly, you probably trust that.
Yeah, but then it moved back to like even odds.
Also, didn't see Taylor Swift as much on TV, to be honest with you guys.
Wonder why that was.
Well, obviously, because Kelsey didn't get a fucking reception the first half, but
So funny. They were probably so pissed that they couldn't show her.
oh, so pissed, so pissed. I will have to say as well, I think watching all the videos of Philly turn up after the game exceeded expectations, and I've been seeing some crazy videos, and I got a couple buddies that said that they were on the streets till like 6 a.m. the next day. So good for them. I hate that city, and it really sucked watching them win. But hey, listen, game's over, so I don't give a shit anymore. So it's
Also,
yeah, go.
No, I was just gonna say also that Kenny Pickett pass at the end of the game on 4th down was pretty clutch for those people that took over 2.5 passing or different players to have a passing attempt.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because isn't that funny how like that came down to it, and it's like just so meaningless at the time of the game.
Yeah,
and it's like,
you didn't see a blowout coming, you know.
And I think everyone, because everyone who probably took that was banking on a trick play, and it's like, oh no, don't worry about it. Kenny Pickett's going to come in because the Eagles are up so much, and yeah, they're going to run the ball 3 times, and then Sirianni's going to go for it on 4th down and let Kenny Pickett try to throw it, and he just throws a rocket out of bounds. It's like, well, didn't bet on a completion, bet on a passing attempt.
There you go. All right, I'm good with this game, man. I've said everything I gotta say. Any last words, Raygun?
Yeah, I mean, hey, Philly, thanks for having my back this playoff run. Overall, just a good team that deserved it. Got a lot of upstanding citizens and people that in their fan base. I think everyone can agree on that. Is there anything you would like to say? Would you like to apologize for anything? I mean, show some respect. I mean, they did represent the NFC East well for you guys, so it looks good for you now.
No, I'm done talking about the Eagles. I have one thing I do want to say. Sir, it was a pleasure. That is now 2 NFL seasons in the books for Around the Felt.
Yes, sir. But guess what? We ain't done. Maybe some of you are like, oh, shit, we don't get to see these clowns for another, till whenever we start back up, I guess July. We don't get to see those clowns till then. Guess what? That's not true. We're going to be doing the recaps on all the different teams. We're going to do it a little differently this year. We decided instead of doing it by division, we're going to do it by team. So it'll be a lot of mini pods and mini videos. So, maybe you don't care about listening to the whole division, but you want to listen to your team. Well, guess what? We'll put a 10 to 20-minute video out on that team.
Free agency, draft season. We love the draft. We'll do a ton of different types of mock drafts as well. Get some of you guys involved. So, we'll keep going until at least the end of April. And then it's a little bit of a hiatus in the NFL season. But
we're hoping some interviews as well.
Content.
Interviews as well with some athletes. Yeah. And speaking on the mock draft thing, like you said, if any of you guys are listening and you're like, yeah, I want to be a part of the mock draft, just hit us up because we're trying to get together a couple different size mock drafts. So we'd love to have different people. And, maybe you're a fan of one of the teams in the league and you're like, because that's another thing. We want to bring on a fan for each team when we're doing the team recap. So maybe you're listening right now, hit us up for that because we'd love to hear your perspective because, we can talk about it from an outsider perspective, but it's always good to hear somebody that's following the team under a microscope so closely. You know what I mean? Like Colin, obviously follows the Giants like so much. And Dave, of course, as well follows the Giants like under a microscope. So, and then me with the Jets, like obviously. So it's good to get some other fans.
It's Strock to you, buddy. It's not Dave.
That was great. Sorry. But yeah, we want to do a 32-man mock draft. So, hey, hit us up. You want to be involved.
Yo, congratulations to the Eagles and number 2 overall quarterback, Jalen Hurts. So
I see Dave's in. So
no, I'm not.
No,
in.
He's just trying to get me riled up.
Where do you rank him?
Trying to get me riled up.
Dude, I'd probably put him at 5 or 6, yeah.
Why? Because Colin
I'm
said
not
that?
putting him at 2. I can tell you that much.
Watch your fucking mouth, Raygun. Watch your fucking mouth.
It's because Colin said that. Colin,
no, that's not true, bro. That's not true. Colin makes a valid argument. Yeah, dude.
Oh, yeah, he does. Now who's getting who riled up, huh? No, I'm kidding. You can finish. What were you saying? He makes a valid argument.
No, don't tell me I can finish. I'll finish when I want to fucking finish.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys. That's a good night. We'll talk to you later.
Felt After Dark starts now.